Hi, everybody. Welcome to another exciting Pirate News. You got your regulars here from coming up from Boston. Of course, me, Joe. You got Jamie, our captain. We have
Oh,
Malt
Hmm.
and the silent but deadly Steve.
Don't make me sound like a fart, man.
uh, well, sorry about that, but there's definitely an issue that we're going to jump right into with some legislature that's going on. We'll battle the politics, and it's right up our alley. So, Steve,
Well, it's not really a legislative battle so far. I mean, this is where I give a shout out to Kim Driscoll, who is the mayor of Salem, Massachusetts. She wrote an editorial in the Globe, basically, noting that if you're a municipality in Massachusetts, there are 351 of us. You have open meeting laws that you are responsible for adhering to. This means things like posting agendas, providing a public accommodations, holding meetings in accessible places, and doing minutes, et cetera, et cetera. And there's also a mechanism where if municipalities goof and, boards and such do that from time to time, they could be, the public, can correct them and, you make sure it doesn't happen again. So on the state level, it's a slightly different picture. The legislature, when they passed our open meeting laws, exempted themselves. So whereas in the pandemic, the only way to do town business or city business has basically been by video conference. Whatever, pick your favorite video conference vendor, but we've been doing remote participation, which strangely enough has allowed a lot more people access to public meetings. You don't necessarily have to drive down to, or make a trip into town hall or city hall at some point during the week. You can just kind of tune in while you're cooking dinner or whatever. And we haven't seen any of that, that sort of thing at the state level. And she makes a point that, it would really help people to understand what goes on in state government if, there were better posting of schedules, if there were minutes, and if there were more access to the meetings themselves. And I think this is right up our alley. And I agree, Massachusetts should do that.
definitely.
well, indeed, I think Massachusetts is either the only state or one of the few states where all three branches of government are not bound by the open meeting law, and certainly not the FOIA law.
So that being said, they definitely should be making it. I mean, we're held at a local level to really make sure that we're held accountable. We should hold all of our legislation accountable for what they're doing. I think that goes without saying. And speaking of holding accountable, we have some interesting things that China's trying to pull.
So China is known for putting surveillance cameras everywhere. They're probably the leading nation after, just before the United Kingdom on that. And they've been doing stuff with artificial intelligence and facial recognition, more than likely. But one of the things we found out recently is China enlisted surveillance firms to draw up technical standards for mass facial recognition systems. Taking a hat tip from all the surveillance tech bros out there, they want to bring phrenology back. And so they're looking at things like eyebrow size and skin tone, ethnicity, whether you're Tibetan or Uyghur or Han Chinese or whatever, your hairstyle, all these different things will go in so they can categorize every single person in every single video that they have.
I mean, they were tracking it right down to like what was it, race and hair color and everything like that, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Skin color, ethnicity. I mean, it's amazing the details they want to get into, and And it's they made sure that that the private industry knew exactly what they were expecting. They were very clear about their standards.
I mean, so they've been trying to hack, trying to do all these things, and then pushing the companies that are working with them. They're looking to really just be the absolute best at getting all of our information.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, 1984 is still a thing. Certainly in China and, increasingly other countries as well.
Well, that being said, I mean, there's all sorts of things going on. What was that company that just got hacked? With,
Ubiquity.
Oh
yeah,
yes, Ubiquity.
that one, yeah.
So this report is brought to you by the Department of Your Information Wants to Be Free, whether you like it or not. Ubiquity is a manufacturer of network and wireless hardware, and reporting from the Register says that apparently it appears that one of their sysadmins' credentials was compromised, which enabled an intruder to get access to all of Ubiquity's Amazon infrastructure, their hosted infrastructure that's hosted by Amazon. And, in terms of what the attackers got, Ubiquity is being kind of silent at the moment, but it might include source code. It might not. It might include signing keys for certificates and encryption keys, or it might not. Might include customer information and possibly access to, deployed devices at customer sites, or it might not. But I think this will be an interesting one to watch, and it's just another example of even security companies can sometimes have difficulties with security.
What's the absolute worst case scenario here? Like, I'm not technically smart in the least. So like, I hear cloud computing, I imagine just like, what kind of data is really stored there? Like what could the certificate pairs be used for?
Well, one of the examples of data that was stored there, apparently that some of that data was their source code. So, if you put your source code on the cloud gets owned, then, your source code is now open source. Now the signing certificates, and, I admittedly don't know if Ubiquity does this, but it's a common practice when issuing patches or software updates to cryptographically sign them. So that way the receiver can verify that, the integrity of the thing and verify that it came from Ubiquity. Now, if someone got a hold of those signing keys, then you could basically post a malicious update that was legitimately signed.
That's a problem.
Yes, it's a problem.
I mean, it's also a big issue because Ubiquity has been very much trying to move its customers toward their admin console in the cloud solution. So you become even more vulnerable potentially in that case.
So one of the big companies that I'm aware of is Facebook, who uses those servers, right? Am I wrong with the whole? So that would mean a lot of Facebook.
The Facebook data breach. I'm pretty sure it's not related to Ubiquity. What we're looking at with this Facebook data breach are you got these two companies. There's one called Cultura Collectiva, and there's separately an app called At the Pool, which was used to arrange offline hookups and shut down in 2014. They left all of their shit up on an Amazon cloud bucket, specifically an S3. You're looking at like specifically folders labeled things like FK user ID, FB user, FB friends, FB likes, FB music, FB movies, FB books, FB photos, events, groups, check-ins, interests, passwords.
All your stuff from Facebook.
Yeah. basically everything. So if you remember the issue with Cambridge Analytica, which that it would leaked information which was used by the Trump administration to micro target specifically incendiary ads, affected data from 87 million users. And we're looking at a data leak from, at this time, 540 million.
Million.
This is 146 gigabytes of raw, I'm pretty sure strictly text data. Unclear how many individuals users are involved. I tried looking on haveibeenpwned.com. I used like all of my emails. I didn't see if it was up there yet, so it might not have been even like finished sorted yet by white hats. So that's going to be fun.
Oh, there's, out of 500 million user records, how many are bots?
Like Facebook claims that it's got 2.2 billion unique users.
Mm-hmm.
And like they'd have no reason to lie about any of their numbers or statistics. Isn't that right, Facebook? You video count inflating so-and-sos?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, one of the things that I heard this in another context, but after, I guess with sort of all of the hemming and hawing post-election and Facebook deciding to crack down on fake user accounts, somebody raised the question of, what about ads shown to them? Do the advertisers get a refund? Which is actually, that's kind of cool.
I thought it was interesting that Zuckerberg was user number 3 in that list, apparently.
Hmm.
I am going to find the first 2 and eat their hearts. And through the power of diablerie, I shall become strong enough to defeat the Zuck.
Hmm. And speaking of other companies that are doing terrible things, what's all this like car tracking stuff going on as well with that immigration and border police have been using to snatch up all this data? I know there's a bunch of car companies and stuff like that.
Yeah, so OnStar, amongst others, has a service where they, you can press a button and someone will answer your question or send help or whatever you might need. And of course, cars are computers with wheels. And, increasingly they know exactly where you're going. And that information, through the miracle of the market, is making its way to Customs and Border Protection and ICE, so they can keep tabs on people. So apparently this is OnStar, Geotab, and Spiron, Spireon, that are gathering up this data and sending it out to the government, obviously for a price.
Lucrative government contract.
And the thing that upsets me the most is that if the government was doing this directly, Republicans would have burned something expensive by now. Because it's the private market, incidentally, providing a service that the government also uses, we've got to defend it in the name of white baby Jesus.
But I mean, one of the things it allows ICE to do is to demand the location information for a vehicle at that very instance. So, if you are an undocumented immigrant, then they could, if they identify what your vehicle is, they could say, well, OnStar, tell us where it is. And they can go and grab you, throw you into a jail somewhere, and send you out of the United States potentially.
Well,
doesn't OnStar also eavesdrop on conversations, even if you are not a member of their service?
So this was a case that kind of this is going back a couple of years ago, but the FBI, I believe it was the FBI, some law enforcement agency whose name probably boils down to 3 initials, wanted OnStar to use their product to do audio surveillance of occupants of specific vehicles.
Okay.
OnStar refused to do this on the basis, and the defense they offered was, if we're listening in, then the person occupying the vehicle, if they need help, they can't actually call out. And I think the courts upheld it, but maybe in the last umpteen years we can do simultaneous two-way communication.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it seems like a breach of privacy, and so
So there's an interesting thing in the article, and I'll go put that in the chat. This I didn't know. So back in 2017, in an investigation into car tapping, Forbes revealed a case where the Sirius XM, which is satellite-based radio, was asked to, quote, activate and monitor as a tracking device the Sirius XM satellite radio installed on a vehicle for 10 days. Reason not to get Sirius XM, I guess.
this is why, for all the nice stuff that computers do, when it comes to communication systems, good old analog does have some advantages. Like, you cannot call up a radio station and say, tell me where Malt is.
It's not did Philip K. Dick ever write a story where your toaster was a snitch?
Not yet. No, I don't think so.
Oh my God. It's just everything gets turned against us. Like nothing ever, no technological development, I think, since I have grown a mustache has worked out in my favor. It has all been turned to either like spy on or oppress me or steal my data.
And
I think the Luddites had some good points.
I expect Cory Doctorow would have it as part of one of his novels, I'm sure.
Well, jumping off of oppression that Malt was going on to, we do have one more story for you this evening.
I'm always going off on oppression.
Well, this one has to do with the FBI terror watch list, and some judges' decisions on it. Would one of you gentlemen like to grab this one? So
the Fourth Circuit Court upheld the FBI terrorist watch list.
yes.
So they're like, yeah, you can have a list of people that there's no way to get off of. There's no way to know if you're on it. And that prevents you from getting on a plane. And potentially a train or a bus or otherwise crossing state lines. Maybe even, who knows, it could theoretically be used if they wanted to for renting a car. So literally you can't go anywhere, which...
So that's how you find out if you're on you're on the FBI's watch list, is you try to fly across state lines.
I think there have been a few journalists on Twitter describing their experiences, and that's exactly what they have to do.
And so, I think with this particular case, it was really easy if you were just of Muslim descent to end up on this list.
Yep.
And it was basically a class action lawsuit trying to say it was unconstitutional, just be slapped with this particular list. And for a while, I believe the fight was being won, and then these three judges or three judge panels said, nope, it's constitutional. Go ahead. And so it's really interesting because this is a lot of trial law is law in effect. So that's why it's always so important to be on top of trials and things of that nature, especially when it comes to these broad sweeping issues.
No doubt it'll be appealed probably to the full court. And then if it gets past that, it'll get appealed to the Supreme Court. Of course, with the current composition of the Supreme Court, I think it is not, it's certainly entirely possible that they would uphold it as well.
Yeah.
This out of curiosity, and maybe please correct, one of you jump in and correct my memory if I've gotten it wrong. But that Capitol insurrection from January 6th, where you had some people who blew town right away, some people who just decided to hang out in DC for the weekend and then go home. Now, wasn't it the case that at least the Feds started going around to hotel rooms, and basically people tried to go home at the end of the weekend and found that they couldn't fly because they were on a no-fly list?
Yep.
Or is that a different list altogether?
So the no-fly list and the terrorist watch list are different lists.
Oh, okay, okay.
Like, I think the terrorist watch list is specifically the FBI, whereas the no-fly list is something maintained by the TSA.
Okay.
Yeah. Speaking of that whole thing, I think one of the people that they just indicted in the Capitol riots was a police officer who was on top of tier police officer of the year, and he was down causing mayhem.
Yeah, that you've had people with, I guess, secret clearance, military, law enforcement, as well as your typical, hair salon, real estate, etc. It's it was a big pool down there.
No, there's a lot of bodies there.
Yeah, we just yesterday, another former Salt Lake City police officer was arrested because he texted some friends, "We stormed the Capitol," and then his friends turned him in. And I can't actually find a current count for how many police officers specifically were arrested for their role, but the most recent one I can find from January is 30. So I would be shocked if we're not past 50 by now.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's kind of fascinating how these people that were at the riot, someone in their life was just waiting to turn them in. That amuses me.
Well, I mean, those are the ones that have been turned in. I'm sure there are ones who were there who weren't turned in.
Yeah.
Basically, no, I can understand that, because all it needs is someone in your life who's really just not that into you.
Frenemies.
Although, speaking of it, one of the things that I heard was that one of the ways they've been able to verify someone was there, so they arrest someone, the person's like, no, I wasn't there, and then they went and got their phone records, and we're like, oh no, there's a GPS ping that shows the exact path you went through the Capitol. Which was interesting because, as we found out, smartphones share our data every 4.5 minutes, according to a study that just came out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that study, I forget the specific numbers, but it was discovered that Android collects fewer types of information than iPhones, but overall send, I think, 20 times more data than advertisers?
Yeah,
so that's fascinating.
So yeah, if you're going to a demonstration, airplane mode.
Yeah, those paths.
As soon as you leave your house.
Those paths were accurate to within, I think it was 6 inches. That's the level of of fidelity we can get inside of buildings these days.
Well, that's a lot of little micro cells.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think that's GPS data. The military did design this for precision bombing, so they want it to be as accurate as they possibly can get it, so that their Tomahawks and JATMs can land on target.
Facts. And that is all the time we have for today. But thank you so much for listening in and being a part of this experience. We appreciate you. And if there is anything that you guys want to talk about, definitely like, share, give us a tweet. We are always looking for more stuff and more engagement. So, like,
The-
share, subscribe, and help us make this fight come to reality. So, gentlemen,
Next week, I am going to laugh at everyone who's lost money on NFTs.
Silicon snake oil. But always check us out at masspirates.org.
I've got a list.
What is that? Non-fungal tokens or something like that?
Not for trading.
All right, we'll look forward to that next week.
Naughty Phi Tature.
thank you guys.
Thanks, folks.
It's a Naughty by Nature cover band.
All right, we're done.